Inviting, curious. When you picture deep antiquity, your mind likely jumps to ancient Egypt and the legendary reign of Queen Cleopatra. It is easy to see why. The Great Pyramid of Giza was completed around 2560 BC, standing as the ultimate symbol of the distant past. Cleopatra herself arrived much later on the timeline. Her reign ended with her death in the year 30 BC. For a modern point of reference, the original iPhone hit the market in 2007. This timeline shows the gap. From the Great Pyramid to Cleopatra's death, 2,530 years passed. But the gap from her death to the iPhone is only 2,037 years. She lived closer to modern smartphones than to the construction of Giza. This distortion stems from a psychological quirk, where our brains compress thousands of years of the past into a single static category. Because we intuitively shorten these vast spans of time, we often miss the overlaps that break our internal logic. We often imagine human history as a relay race, where one era finishes and hands a baton to the next. Take the Aztec Empire. The Mexica people founded their capital, Tenochtitlan, in 1325 AD. Meanwhile, in Europe, the University of Oxford was already an active academic hub, with records of teaching as early as 1096. Oxford had been teaching students for over 2 centuries before the Aztec Empire even began its rise to power. These dates show that what we label as ancient and modern frequently grew side by side on opposite ends of the globe. We make similar assumptions about the divide between science and superstition, often placing witch trials in the depths of the barbaric Middle Ages. However, for most of the medieval period, the official stance of the Catholic Church was that witches did not exist, dismissing belief in them as pagan ignorance. The peak of the witchcraft hysteria actually arrived much later, surging through the late 1500s and into the 1600s. This era of mass paranoia coincides exactly with the Northern Renaissance and the start of the scientific revolution. Thousands were tried for magic during the same generation that Shakespeare wrote his plays, Galileo mapped the stars, and Isaac Newton developed his theories of physics. Progress is rarely a clean break. The peaks of scientific discovery often share a calendar with the heights of cultural hysteria. Our sense of how technology moves is equally disjointed, particularly when looking at early photography. The very first permanent color photograph was produced in 1861. That technological milestone happened the same year Abraham Lincoln was inaugurated as President of the United States. Now, look back at the origins of American academia. Harvard University opened in 1636. For the first several decades of the university's existence, students studied and graduated in a world where calculus had not yet been invented. Academic and technological tools advance at staggered rates, making it difficult to judge the sophistication of an era by looking at just one field. These strange anomalies appear constantly across the entire human timeline, completely dismantling the idea that history moves in a straight line. Consider the woolly mammoth. A small population survived on an Arctic island until roughly 1650 BC, living a full 1,000 years after the pyramids of Giza were already standing. Facts like these act as a jolt to our mental maps. They disrupt the linear story we tell ourselves about how the world changed. When we see these events side by side, it challenges us to discard the idea that history is a series of clean, separate boxes. History is a series of simultaneous layers. When we stop viewing eras as strictly sequential, the prehistoric, the ancient, and the modern reveal themselves as part of a single synchronized reality.